just like that, it's time for our weekly roundup of all the things Lady just ain't gonna do this week. Number one, and the only one on the list this week, is keep letting billionaires buy up everything. So the world is up in arms this week about the possibility that Elon Musk, leader of Tesla, is going to buy Twitter for something like $44 billion, with a B, dollars. I mean, I keep saying it's a possibility because even though an agreement has been made for Musk to buy the popular social media site and take it private, there are some things that could happen that would make this deal fall completely apart. Now, understandably, people are freaking out because this deal is one of the biggest acquisitions in tech history and can and likely will have repercussions across the globe with respect to how people use social media. Musk is a self-described free speech absolutionist, which sounds good, except what that really means is no regulation of anything that is said in the public square, including the lies, misinformation, and disinformation of users like Donald Trump, who was banned from the platform in January of 2021 for this very behavior. There's at least two things wrong with this deal. One, should anyone own the so-called public square? Or should the public square remain just that, public? Two, in the public square, is it anything goes, or do we have a code of conduct about what belongs in the public square and what standards it should uphold? Should anybody get to say anything, regardless of whether or not it's based in any kind of, fact? Is it free speech if you're using Twitter to send me death threats or rape threats? Lady says Twitter got some splaining to do. Now, I don't even use Twitter like that, but that doesn't matter. This will surely set precedent for other sites like Facebook, which also already owns Instagram and WhatsApp. Stay tuned on more for this, folks. Here's what we want more of this week, though. So, are we going to talk about that last episode of Atlanta or not? Now, let me just say first and foremost that if you are not watching the final season of Atlanta, you are really missing out. Really and truly. The minds of Donald Glover and the rest of the show's creators are absolutely fucking brilliant. From the first episode recreating that weird and tragic story of the white lesbian couple who adopted Black kids and then drove the entire family off a cliff, to the reparations episode, which was excellent, to the latest episode called White Fashion, this show is really and truly for the fucking culture. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, we need to talk about the commentary this episode is giving us, which is about the racial reckoning of 2020 and how white folks perform wokeness, and how Black folk facilitate it. They've even got some familiar... Yes, they have even got some familiar characters, otherwise known as some of the charlatans of today's movement. See if you can pick out who they are. But as a hint, I'm going to tell you, this red vest with BLM scrawled on it in a Sharpie that long needed to be thrown away is fucking sending me almost a week later. But besides the parody of the performance of movement, there are deeper, more fundamental questions that are being asked here. Number one, what happened to all the corporations and their racial reckoning? Number two, do you need any credentials at all to be popping off about what needs to be done? Or do you just accept what happens when folk find a Black person who will tell you you're being a good ally? A lot of y'all taking workshops from people who, they've not changed much of anything themselves. And Lady would venture to say there's some performance in that too. Yeah, it's the performance of racism, where any old Black person that makes you feel good about the very little you're doing will do just fine. But there's also something to be said about how people got attracted to this movement, because for some of them, they saw it as a place where they could make some money and call it social justice. Now, here's the thing. We talked a couple weeks ago about the grifter narrative, and it's not a full-on lie. It just ain't me. I have actually been doing this shit for 20 years and winning shit too, if I might add. But yes, it's true. There are grifters in this movement. That's a fact. There's grifters in every fucking movement, but the stories I could tell y'all, I swear before the Black baby Jesus. Anywho, I'm glad Atlanta said something about it, and I hope it sparks up some good and intelligent conversations. And I, for one, could not wait to talk with y'all about it because, I don't know, it's fucking excellent. Woo! It's time for Ladies Love Notes, y'all. And welcome back to Ladies Love Notes, where we give you all of the real about being newly single and dating in your 40s. Now, before I get into this week's Love Notes, I wanted to give y'all an update on how the dinner went. Because, some of y'all was on social media asking me about it, so I figured I'd give you a little something. And I gave y'all a whole thing on dating when people know who you are because of what you do. Well, I gotta say, it was actually quite lovely. I had a wonderful time. Everybody was super dope. The family members were like young adults. And by young adults, I mean college students. The daughter was awesome. And I would love, love, love to kick it with her again, like in real life. And her pops was pretty cool too. A couple of hours before the dinner, he did reach out just to acknowledge it was a lot of people and that if it was too much, he would totally get it. And you know what? I appreciated that. It was a little bit overwhelming, but it made me feel better to know that he at least thought about it. So I let myself say yes to it, and I'm so glad I did. I'm still smiling about it, y'all, and how I love being pleasantly surprised when people are not on some bullshit. Good guy, kept it from being weird, and I got to meet some pretty cool people in the process. And, I haven't seen him again. I mean, we live in different states, but I would like to. Maybe this time without the whole crew. I mean, I would definitely hang with them again too, but it might just be time for some grown folk time. Anywho, let's get into it. So there's been a lot going on. My little heart has been so tender. I moved to a new place and I don't have the same stimuli that I used to have, which means it's literally me and myself and my thoughts all the time. And that's been good for me, honestly. I mean, my last few months in the Bay, I basically spent distracting myself, having great orgasms with that one awful exception. Oh my God, Jesus. Ooh. And definitely some 90s butch energy, but aside from that, distractions have been solid. But now that the distractions are gone and it's just me with me, sometimes I have to work on not shredding myself to pieces. The end of a 17-year marriage, falling in love with someone wonderful who doesn't know how to and won't love me the way I need to be. And then when there's like duds along the way and in between, it can be really easy to doubt yourself. I honestly know absolutely nothing about dating. And I'm not sure I want to, but here I am anyway. I'm the kind of girl that's like if I feel it, I feel it. And if I don't, I don't. You know what I mean? I believe in locking eyes with someone and falling in love right then and there kind of person. And I'm open, really open, but just unfamiliar with the over time, I will grow to like you a lot kind of interaction. As I've been staring in my mirror doing my own Jeroming, and yes, you will understand what Jeroming is if you love Purple Rain the way I do. As I've been doing my own Jeroming, I wonder if it's possible to just not trust yourself to choose someone who's not the other half to your codependency, or someone who's emotionally unavailable or whatever. I'm not saying this to get down on myself, but when your heart is tender, it is easy to not want to put it out there again for more warfare. And it's completely understandable. So sometimes I interpret that as I'm not ready right now to date, but I think it's more like I'm not ready to be open to getting hurt again. Which basically means the same thing, right? Because if you don't get back out there, you won't get hurt again. But if you do, it's almost a given that you might get hurt again. Do I trust myself not to jump right back into a relationship if I meet someone I really like? Do I trust myself to see red flags and not call them right on over to take up residence at Alicia Garza? Yeah, not really, fam, if I'm being honest. Lady ventures to say that maybe some of you are feeling that way too. It's been almost a year now since my ex and I decided to part ways. But in so many ways, it feels still like I'm learning to navigate the world solo. And it's scary as fuck, especially because I open myself up. Remember, my whole shit about saying yes to things that scare me? And whoa, did I get blown around in a tornado and a volcano? I mean, it's mind-blowing. I really don't do anything small. And I'm still here, but I am very wary. And in that wariness, I am also still strapped up in football pads and a bulletproof vest, waiting perhaps for someone to say and really mean, hey, you don't need that stuff here. Is it possible that I could meet someone who could make me retire my defenses just for a little bit? As you heard here in this episode, I gotta believe I can. But maybe I just needed to say it that, damn, this whole say yes to shit that scares you requires a faith that, yeah, lady's gonna be honest with you and say it's hard as fuck to do when you did it and failed. I'm working on it, trusting myself to take my experiences and use them to make me bolder, not more scared. Trusting that I've been taking care of myself for this long and have done all right by myself, if I do say so. And that maybe, that love I'm looking for is just around the corner, waiting for me to trust myself to walk towards it. Maybe.